talk to you. That's better. Okay, so I feel like I'm not really good at this, like, randomly talking to the camera thing. Feels kind of weird still. It'll probably always feel weird. But I'm sitting in what I like to call my library. Mostly it's just the landing with the bookshelves. So it's our makeshift library. And I'm sitting with this little guy so that I can introduce him to the world. Even though all of the people that need to meet him already have. Yeah. So this sweet boy is boy number 3, and he is almost 3 months old. So this introduction and labor and delivery story, I guess you could call it, has kind of been a long time coming. Third child problems, am I right? It's been a little hectic around here. On top of welcoming a new baby, we're also dealing with all of the other fun things that come with having 2 kids with medical issues. I feel weird saying that Casper has medical issues, but he does. As such, he has appointments that he has to go to. And Felix, as you all know, if you've been following along on our journey, has many a trial and tribulation. I'll get into that in another video. I have a Felix update that's like, it's a big one. So stay tuned for that, because that will be coming very soon, because other things are coming very soon. So, I thought that I would take some time to awkwardly talk to my camera and introduce you to Augie. I will include some pictures of this little guy from the beginning and up to, I guess, almost 3 months. So, Augie was born early in January. If you watched my sewing video of sewing my maternity dress for a photo shoot, Peter and I tend to do a lot of our own photos just because we're not professionals, but we're pretty good. And so I asked Peter if he would kindly take some maternity photos of me this year. We did have maternity photos done professionally when I was pregnant with Casper 5 years ago. Life gets pretty crazy when there's multiple kiddos running around and all that other stuff I said before. So we figured it'd just be easier to do it ourselves on a day when everyone's in daycare or school. And so yeah, it would have been nice to have some photos done of all of us before becoming a family of 5, but you know, you win some, you lose some. So I was induced in early January of this year, obviously. It was my 3rd labor, my 3rd induction. The induction process went fine. We got there, we were taken in pretty much right away, like into triage. They had a room, like it was a lot smoother to begin with than anything else. And then what they did was they gave me, I think at first they gave me some medication to see if they could like get things moving. So I was like 38 weeks in a couple days, like maybe two or 3 days. So when I was pregnant with Casper, when I was induced with him, I was induced at 39 weeks and a day. Or maybe I was induced at 39 weeks and I had him the next day. So it was a very long process, but very smooth. And with Felix, with Casper, I think they just gave me the gel to like ripen things, or however they say. And then with Felix, I had the Foley, like the balloon thing. And I guess with a lot of times when they do the Foley, it's like they send you home and then you come back when it falls out. But in my case, because of my like heart status and everything, they don't send me home. It's like you're there, you're getting induced, you're staying there until you have this baby, one way or another. So with Felix, I was instructed to just keep tugging on the Foley until it came out. Not like to like wrench it out, but just like give it a couple tugs every once in a while. And they said it could take a few hours. I'm pretty sure within like 30 to 40 minutes, that sucker was out. Similar with this guy. I think it may have been in for an hour and a half, but you know, I just tugged every once in a while, and it was just me and Peter there because of COVID. So the kids were here at home with my parents, and yeah, no one could come visit us because of COVID. So it was just the 2 of us. And so we just kind of like chilled out and waited for things to get moving. Took a while. Not gonna lie, it took a while. So they did the Foley thing. We did the medicine that like helps contractions. I don't even remember. And then we waited, and then eventually I had to get the epidural because I have to get an early epidural to like minimize my pain response. Again, because of my heart, they don't want that pain response to like set off my arrhythmias and stuff like that. Everything was going well up until like the epidural went in, and then I just felt like it wasn't really working. When I had my epidural with Casper, it was like premium. It was premium. I could feel nothing. Pushed through 3 contractions and out he came. With Felix, they had to make some adjustments with the epidural. Not like to move it or anything, but they had to, I don't know, maybe it was my positioning or something they had to keep like fiddling with to try. Oh. Delivery! And then with this one, I just felt like one side of me was frozen and one side was kind of tingly but not completely frozen. Even though they were doing the ice test and it was like, yeah, I mean, like it's kind of cool, but it's not cold. It just wasn't like great. So they kept like giving me like boluses, pumps of the epidural to, instead of just letting it like run its course the way it normally does. Because I was in so much discomfort, and obviously because of my heart, they don't want that to be the case. So they had the anesthesia doc come back in, and he checked it, and he's like, "It's well placed. Like I don't know what to say," kind of thing, because they didn't need to take it out and like fix it because it was well placed. It was, I guess, I don't know, just however my labor was. It was very uncomfortable, and then that's when things started to go a little hairy. Every time I had a contraction, his heart rate would drop. And I'm really big on knowing what heart rates are. I don't know what normal is for a baby and stuff like that, like in labor, but like I'm hyper aware of my own heart rate just because pre-pacemaker it was always like ridiculously low, and so I was very aware of how low it was all the time. So I was concerned. But they didn't seem to be making a very big deal of it at the time because every time the contraction stopped, his heart rate came back up and it was fine. And so it was like, okay. But I guess it happened enough that they said to us, like, if it happens again or if it keeps happening or something, it's kind of all a blur, we're going to have to take you to the OR. We're going to have to do a C-section. Hold up. Do I care if I have to have a C-section? Yes and no. I don't care, obviously, because the whole aim of the game is to get this sucker out premium. Yeah, perfectly. So that you're just happy guy. So in that way, no, I don't care if I need a C-section because I just want my baby to be fine. However, this is pregnancy and delivery number 3. Both of my other 2, I had vaginal births. I pushed through like 3 contractions with Casper. I pushed for 10 minutes with Felix. Boom shakalaka, here's a baby. So I was going to be a little bit sad if we get through all of this and I end up with a C-section on our last kiddo. So they were like, okay, we'll just play it by ear. And then it happened again. And then it was like everyone came in the room rushing, like, okay. And presumably the surgeon, is it a surgeon? I'm assuming it's a surgeon that does it. I don't even know. I've never had a C-section. I don't know. She was just like, I'm going to explain everything to you as we move to the OR. And I was like, okay, that's fine. She was like, so I'm sorry if I'm talking really fast or whatever, but like, I need to let you know everything. And I just looked at her and I was like, just do what you gotta do. Like, I'm like, I don't care. I mean, like, I care, but I don't care. As long as he is healthy and safe, that is my top priority. I will deal with the aftermath after. It's not a big deal. Right? For me, like, in that moment, it was like, I've had enough surgeries that it's whatever. What's one more? Who cares? Obviously, there's the inherent risk with having surgery and whatever, but there's risk with having a baby. So get my kid out, make sure he's fine. So they wheel us down to the OR. I'm thinking like we have to like get to the OR. It's literally down the hall. I guess that makes sense. So that when you're in an emergency situation like that, it's not like you have to like traipse about the hospital to get to the OR. You're there basically. And I just kept saying, where's Peter? I can do anything if Peter is there. Like, it does not matter. As long as he's there, I got it. We're good. Peter can get a little bit like, woozy when it comes to like blood and guts and gore and stuff like that. So he was in the hallway waiting for them to tell him to come in, like when they had like the drape up and everything. So we get in there. Keep in mind, I already have an epidural in and I can't really feel like waist down. And so like, do you think you can go from like the bed to the table? And I was like, well, I mean, like, I'll try. So I managed, epidural and all, I managed to scooch myself over to the table and lay down. I just remember it being cold. I was so cold. And then the anesthesia doc like popped his head up here and was like, I'm just going to, like, I am so-and-so from anesthesia. I'm going to increase the epidural to like freeze you. And I was like, okay, like, you do you. You're the professional here. I'm just here to have a baby. I just play by the rules. I don't make them. So he like cranks it. I'm literally frozen, and it lasted for a while. I was frozen from like here down. Like, I had boobs, could not feel them. Like, could not feel them. Which, when it comes to breastfeeding, is a little bit tricky because you can't feel anything. Also, like, contractions, can't feel those, which I guess is the whole point of the epidural, but still, like, So they just said, we're going to check you one more time. How's it going down there?
Check me, baby, one more time.
Don't make me embarrassed. Yeah, so they just said they're gonna take the catheter out and check me like for dilation one more time, because I think like the whole point that they didn't have me pushing before that is that I wasn't dilated enough. Like, I was not far enough along that I could push, and so that's why we were in the OR. Blah blah blah. So they're looking and they're like, oh, you're 9.5 centimeters. You're gonna push, and I was like, okay, like, sure. They've already cranked up the epidural. I'm frozen from the nips down. Like, seriously. Now they want me to push. So I just remember saying, so before that, let me just say, I was so cold, and my arms were just resting like down by my sides, like by my legs, and my hips and whatever. And I kept apologizing to the doctors and the nurses, like, oh, I'm so sorry. Because I thought that I was, like, bumping into them with my hands, because whatever I was touching was so warm. It was my legs. I was touching my own legs. But I didn't know, because I couldn't feel them. Fantastic. So that was hilarious. They probably were like, why does she keep apologizing to us? Doesn't matter. I'm sure they hear it all, see it all, whatever. So they're like, okay, you're going to try pushing. Like, before we do anything, like, we're not going to slice and dice you right this second. You're going to push. And it was like, okay, because obviously they want you to have a vaginal birth. If they can avoid a C-section, they will, right? And I'm like, okay, someone's going to have to pass me my legs. Because, you know, like, if you've seen a movie or if you've given birth, you're usually holding, like, behind your knees. I have very flexible hips. I like to hold my feet. It just gives me more leverage and better grip because my feet are smaller than my legs. Obviously easier to hold on to. So I was like, someone needs to pass me my legs because I can't feel them. I can't move them. So I grab my feet, whatever. I'm in position. And they're like, okay, push. And then they're like, wait, stop. We don't want you to hurt your bladder. Whatever that means. They had to do something. And then they were like, okay, push. And I was presumably pushing. I just remember looking at one of the nurses or doctors going like, I can't feel, like, am I pushing? I don't know if I'm pushing. Am I pushing? Am I doing a good job? Because I can't feel anything. So, I guess I was pushing, because I think I pushed through 4 contractions this time, which, considering how frozen I was pretty good. So I think I pushed through 4 contractions. Definitely thought I was going to pass out. Like, literally, like, I live for this moment because, like, with all of my cardiac stuff, I'm not supposed to bear down. I'm not supposed to, like, lift heavy things or squat heavy things or push heavy things. Obviously, heavy is relative to the person. Right now, what's heavy for me now is a lot less than what used to be heavy for me before I had children, because I was lifting weights quite frequently. But I just remember pushing so much. I was ready to pass out. And they were like, okay, push again. I was like, look, there is no juice left in this tank. Like, I got nothing. There's nothing left. But I got him out, and then they wrapped him up, and they stuck him on me, and I was so exhausted and so frozen and so shaky from the epidural, and like you get the shakes after really bad. And I just remember like kind of like half-assedly like like holding him on my chest, and I just wanted to hold him, and I wanted to snuggle him, and I wanted to nurse him, but like I was like, someone needs to take him, because like I have no control over my body right now, my arms, and I'm shaking so bad, and I feel like I'm going to pass out. Somebody needs to take him, because I don't want him to like fall off of me onto the floor. So they scooped him up, and they took him over to like the warming area, like how they would do normally to like do the stats and everything. And he was all bundled, and he was quiet. He was fine. And I just remember thinking, like, where's Peter? Peter, go with the baby. Like, where, like, make sure he's okay. But then Peter was like, okay, I need to sit down. So they're like, okay, somebody get Dad a chair. I remember them saying that. So Peter was sitting because he was getting woozy. And I don't really remember much after that, other than they couldn't get a blood pressure, presumably because I was shaking so much. But I have had issues with bleeding with the other 2 pregnancies. So, I mean, I don't know if it was a blood volume thing. I don't think it was. Like, I think it's just because I was shaking so bad. And that lasted, like, a while. So, it was sad in the long run because, like, with Casper and Felix, I had them on me, skin to skin, nursing within, like, a minute. Like, they came out, they were on me, we were nursing, it was great. I was maybe passed out a little bit, but, like, it was fine. Because I was in a bed in a hospital room, like, Peter was there, my mom was there, it was fine. This time, we're in the OR, I'm completely flat, I have no control over my limbs, and I'm weak. I was dry heaving like mad. Luckily, I hadn't eaten anything. So, like, that part was kind of good, but I was dry heaving so bad, and just felt, like, awful. And so I only vaguely remember being wheeled back to our room. And I remember asking Peter to please do skin to skin, because I couldn't. Like, I was so gone. Like, I'm like, I can't, but you have to. Like, just whip your shirt off. Like, snuggle him in there. I mean, we knew it was a boy. I knew it was him for the longest time. But, like, I was so done. I was so gone. So I don't really remember much after that. But presumably I woke up at some point and tried nursing him. I remember asking if he was tongue-tied and not being given a definitive answer. Only, I mean, like, Casper was severely tongue-tied. Felix was significantly tongue-tied. I was tongue-tied. My dad was tongue-tied. My niece was tongue-tied. Like, it's a familial thing, and both the other 2 were tongue-tied. So I was pretty sure. And when you look back at pictures, Peter says to me, he goes, I don't know how anyone could say, no, we don't think he's tongue-tied. Like, he has a heart-shaped tongue, and it was tethered right down at the front. Like, he couldn't lift his tongue up. And there was nobody at the hospital in the time frame that we were there that could snip it. Sometimes because it's a Jewish hospital, they do a lot of circumcisions there. So sometimes the doctors that are trained in doing the circumcisions are available to snip the frenulums in the mouth for tongue ties. But every time that we've been, no one's been available. We were seen by the lactation consultant, just like, not because I needed help with nursing, but because, I'm just gonna get rid of this other sock, because I needed the referral or the letter to take to the doctor that did the other 2 kids' tongue ties to have his tongue tie snipped. And I remember one of them saying, like, oh, well, it's not necessary that you snip the tongue tie, blah, blah, blah. And I just looked at him like, he is severely tongue-tied. I know that if I leave it past like a week trying to nurse him with being this tongue-tied, my nipples are going to fall off. I had the experience with Casper. I wanted to cry and die. And I hate that feeling of like, I want to nurse my kid, but I don't because it hurts so bad. Luckily, this is, 3rd time's a charm. These are hardened nips here. We're good. But also, he had to work so hard, and he was so little. He was like barely just over 6 pounds when he was born. He was just so small. Like, we had to get him into preemie diapers because the newborn diapers were humongous on him. Like, to the point where like they were like overlapping so much. And I know like every kiddo's shape is different. He was just skinny all around. He was just so little. And like all of his newborn clothes were humongous on him. We made do. Like, I'm not going to buy brand new preemie size sleepers or anything like that for like 5 minutes of wearing them, but it was just tiny. And so nursing him was hard because everything about him was small. His mouth was small. He was just small. He's a small guy. So I was very like, no, we need the paperwork. I'm getting his tongue tie snipped. So I'm pretty sure Peter called and made the appointment before we even left the hospital. We were begging to get discharged. I had spoken with my cardiologist in advance. Hold on. Oh my God, tea. Lifeblood. I was speaking with my cardiologist in advance because normally they have me in hospital for 48 hours post-delivery. I had him at 11:45 p.m. And so 48 hours after that, I would have had to stay to the next morning anyway. So he was born on a Tuesday? Monday? I don't remember. It was a Monday or a Tuesday at 11:45 p.m. And we got to come home on the Thursday. And the only reason I had said to my cardiologist, like, if you need me to stay for the full 48 hours, we will make do. It will be fine. Even if Peter has to leave me at the hospital, come home to, like, take over for my parents who are watching Casper and Felix, and then bring them maybe to his parents' house when he comes to pick me up from the hospital. Like, we'll manage. It's just, if everything goes well and I can get discharged earlier than 48 hours, we would appreciate it. Because, like, my parents aren't well, like, mostly my dad, and he wasn't doing so well, like, with some other health concerns. And Felix is a lot. He has a lot to handle. He doesn't sleep through the night. He has his helmet to wear. He doesn't, I mean, he knows now, it's been a couple more months, but like at the time he was only just figuring out how to go down the stairs. And he's a big boy, right? Like he's 2.5 now, as of the beginning of March, he's 2.5. So he's a chunky boy. So for my mom to have to carry him up and down the stairs, and my mom's like the size that I am, so I have a hard time getting him in and out of his crib. Out of his crib is easier. Getting him in his crib while he's asleep, good frickin' luck. That does not happen very often, which is why Peter usually does it, because he's got like a solid 8 inches on me. We wanted to come home as soon as possible post-delivery for a variety of reasons, COVID being one of them. More importantly, giving my parents a break because they were here holding down the fort. I don't remember where I was going with that, to be completely honest. We came home. No, smoosh. Oh, you're going to be hungry when you wake up. Yeah, so we came home. My parents met him, which was lovely because my mom's been at the deliveries for the other 2 boys. But again, COVID, blah, blah, blah. She couldn't be there. So that was fun. Then they left and it was like, okay, here we go. Now we're the parents of 3 boys. Oh God. And because of Casper in school and COVID, they were doing virtual. I'm like, I'm not putting a kindergartner into virtual school. So he just chilled. He and Felix went to daycare, like 4 days a week until school started up again in person, like 2 weeks or a week and a half later. So that was fine. And here we are now almost 3 months in, and like so much has happened. He's had his first sets of immunizations at his last checkup. We started him on some reflux medication. All 3 boys have had reflux. Casper and Felix wasn't as bad as this. Like Augie pukes like you wouldn't believe. And like at the beginning he was like projectile puking. I'm like, I can deal with puke. Babies puke. They poop, they puke, they eat, they scream, they sleep. That's literally all that they do. But like he was puking a lot. So hopefully we only need to do it for like a month or 2 and then he'll be a little bit bigger and he won't be refluxing so bad. So that pretty much brings us to now. It is the 25th of March when I'm filming this. I'm getting over a cold. It's not COVID. Don't panic. I just got run down because joy of joy. Felix had a good couple nights where he was like actually sleeping. It was amazing. And so we were going down to the basement in the evenings and Peter was awesome enough to just happily snuggle this little bean sprout and play his video games because he can play his video games while he's snuggling the baby. Whereas if I'm sewing, I'm moving around so much and I'm using my arms and my hands so much, I can't hold him like this and sew at the same time. I'm just not that good. So I was getting so much sewing done, which felt good for me. Like I like to be productive. I like to get stuff done, whether it's cleaning up the house because that makes me feel good. I don't like the clutter because it stresses me out and it gives me sensory overload. So he, like, if we can get him in the swing or just like snuggled in on the couch in the nursing. We have a really like beefy nursing pillow, so we like snuggle him in there. He feels like he's being held. Then like Peter can chill if he wants to, or fold laundry or whatever. And like I can like zip around the kitchen and like clean the place up a little, which makes me feel on two fronts, right? Like I get something done, so I feel productive, but also then my house is not a disaster, which makes me feel good because I don't like when it's messy. So I get sensory overload. So yeah, I've been sewing up a storm, which is great. At one point I was like spending a lot of time during the day cutting out patterns and fabric and stuff so that I would have, if I had an evening, I could go and sew. So like last night, I managed to fix a pair of Casper's pants. I had made him a pair of just like jogger pants. So I made them, try to make them like all matching outfits because I can. So I made Casper's first and I got him to try them on. Casper is very tall, I think. Everyone keeps telling me he's tall. I think he's tall. But so he needs like the length of like a size 6, but he needs probably the width of like a 4 or 5. So I just made him like a straight size 5, but I added length to it. The waistband was huge. So I was like, that's fine, I'll put some elastic in it. So I put some elastic in it. It was still huge. So I unpicked the seams, and then last night I opened it up. I cut the elastic to make it shorter, and I reserged the back, like the back center seam of the pants and the waistband to take a few inches out, or like an inch or so, and then I fixed it all, put them together. And Felix was still sleeping, and Casper was still sleeping, and Augie Bean was still sleeping. So then I made Felix's pants and got those done. I haven't tried them on him yet, but he's a chonky boy, so I'm hoping that a size 3. I'm more concerned about the width of the bottom of the pants, that they're big and stretchy enough to go over as braces. But whatever, I finished those, and then I finished a jumper for this guy. So there's other things I need to sew that I have cut out, that I've had cut out for a while. Another nursing hoodie, another cardigan for myself, and I'm pretty sure I cut out like a size 0 to 3 months romper for this guy. He's now in size 3 to 6. So I'm hoping that if I just keep the, like if I take a smaller seam allowance, it'll make it like a little bit wider and a little bit longer so that hopefully it fits him. That being said, I didn't measure him to see what size he was based on like what the pattern is. So he might still fit in a 0 to 3 for this pattern. If he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. I will fold it up and I will keep it for whomever has a child next in my life. I know one of my neighbors is expecting very soon, and I know my friend wants to have another kiddo. So whoever, it'll be a nice gift to just have handy. I can't believe you slept through that whole however many minutes of me talking. Do my dulcet tones lull you to sleep? If that's the case, you should be doing a lot more sleeping because I never stop talking. Yeah? I think I hear Daddy having some soup. Should we go downstairs? Yeah. So, introducing the bean sprout, the Augie Bean. I don't think this kid's gonna know his name. That's okay. Felix doesn't know his name either. Yeah. Cool? Yay. 3 kids. Oh, it's a madhouse. I'm gonna call it a day here now and take this guy downstairs. Stay tuned for a Felix update.